It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling and so much more. Join us as we go beyond the slipstream. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on bike races, movies, bands, and all manner of shiny pop cultural objects. Oh, and did I mention bike races? We're kind of obsessed. Adelaide! Hello and welcome to Beyond the Slipstream. I'm Matt and this is my brother Justin, and today in our first segment we're recapping the men's edition of the Santos Tour Down Under, which just came to its conclusion a few short hours ago. Then in part 2 of our All Australia podcast this week, we're going to dive into the history of Australian road cycling and the state of the sport today in the land down under. And in segment 3, we'll look at Cadel Evans, both the man who became the first Aussie to win the Tour de France and the race which bears his name, the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race, which takes place next weekend with the women's version on Saturday and the men's on Sunday. And no Beyond the Slipstream podcast would be complete without a ride in the Broom Wagon. Ale! Please note this segment will contain spoilers. If you haven't had a chance to watch the Tour Down Under yet and wish to remain unspoiled, please jump to segment 2 now. The 2025 edition of the men's Santos Tour Down Under concluded just hours ago with a convincing GC win by UAE's Jonathan Narvaez and a repeat of Sam Welsford's three-peat of stage wins from 2024. Over the course of its 25-year history, the TDU has become a much-beloved stage race and season opener on both the men's and the women's sides. The women's race this year gave us fireworks on Wollonga Hill and a deserving winner in Noemi Arug. Justin, were you pleased seeing Narvaez take the win for the men?
Yeah. I thought it was a very good win on their part. Obviously, UAE getting out to a fast start. I did wonder about his little thing on, I think it was on stage 3, where he kind of put his hand up on that sprint. Maybe it was stage 4. It was a textbook sprint. Like, I felt like he was being a bit of a baby in that moment. I don't know what exactly that he saw, but I mean, I went back and watched it a whole bunch of times, and you know, he certainly got upset, but I didn't see why. I mean, you know, I don't think that he got pushed in the barriers or anything like that, but it was a convincing win, and he held on to it. Yesterday, made sure that they did the work to make sure that, you know, they came away with it. They, you know, kept all the right people out of the break, and, you know, it was a very good win. I think that team is just going to be strong as death.
Yeah, you meant that's one of the things I thought was a big takeaway. The Narvaez win sort of just highlights that UAE are looking dominant already. First race, they get a stage win on Wollonga Hill, like arguably the most important stage win of the race, and they get the overall GC. And I hate to say this, but it also stands in stark relief to Ineos Grenadiers. The guy that they couldn't hold on to goes ahead and wins. And not only that, but like Ineos was just, not only were they nowhere in terms of results in this race, but I'm sure you noticed on multiple stages, they had like 4 guys out front, 5 guys out front, trying to boss it, like trying to be a factor. And in the end, nothing.
I don't feel like they ever had anybody that was right there. Now, I will say, I mean, they have a top 10 in Magnus Sheffield. So, you know, they have an American top 10. So they weren't completely, you know, out of the picture, but I mean, they might as well have been, because you didn't really see them do anything to try to reposition, try to get him, you know, a breakaway, build up, you know, get some seconds. I mean, there's just it's a seventh. It seems like a top 10 in spirit only.
Yeah, it does not bode well for that team. In my opinion, I don't know, and we spent a lot of time talking about Ineos a couple weeks ago, and I just am not seeing. I'm not seeing anything there. It's gonna be a frustrating season for Ineos fans. I suspect. It was
I
cool.
suspect as well.
It was cool seeing G out there on stage 5, like kind of helping out with the team, seeing the white sunglasses. I love how just like instantly recognizable he is.
It does not matter. Yeah, you can pick him out of the peloton, no problem.
Yeah. But anyways, I don't think we should be spending too much time on Ineos, who was a non-factor in this race when there was lots of other good stuff to digest, including the repeat three-peat from Sam Welsford. I mean, that guy's just magic in this race.
I nailed that prediction last week. He looked great. I mean, that team looked great. I mean, it's like, I mean, Welsford looked good in each of those 3 wins. He looked just great. Like those two were just spot on in each of those 3 sprints. I don't think that. I mean, other than that, the kid from the British kid from Visma coming up and taking the second on stage 1. I mean, I don't think anybody really had an answer for him outside of Cocard the one day.
Well, yeah, and if you look at the final day, Cocard was in his wheel 100% and was completely unable. Forget about coming around him. He could barely keep up with him.
Yeah.
That's 7 wins for Welsford this season. It's freaking January. That man has 7 wins already. That is completely insane.
Yeah.
It's I feel like I was not much aware of, like, during the season last year. Once we got into the season proper, I sort of just lost track of the fact that Welsford had done so well in the TDU last year. I'm very interested to see what the rest of his season looks like. Do they have another sprinter, or is he the guy in terms of sprints for Red Bull Bora?
I mean, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head other than him. I mean, him and Van Poppel.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly they're certainly a great.
He's definitely a rider to watch, dude, because he looks strong. I mean, he has that same, speed and cadence that Jasper Philipsen has.
Yeah.
And, it could definitely be big. What did you think of Fergus Browning? Fergus taking the King of the Mountain. I was really happy to see him win that. I don't know why. It's just like, I love the fact he was out on the front and
very likable guy. He's a likable guy. I love seeing that, like, all Aussie team come in with a realistic goal and just put all the resources towards that goal. And I mean, he had the thing sewn up on stage 4, I believe. He already had the win, like, sewn up on stage 4. But I mean, that was well played on their part, and I enjoy that. I hope he is. I don't think he is on a major pro team or anything like that. So we'll be on.
That's probably thing that he gets all year. That's really. But I like it whenever there's a smaller team wins anything.
Yeah. So some stuff that I liked. Dylan Van Barle going out with the collarbone just sucks so bad. That guy has got the worst luck here lately.
He's the oft injured Dylan Van Barle now.
Yeah. I mean, collarbone, those heal quickly, so I don't think it's going to really, affect his season all that much. I mean, he might lose a little bit of form or something, but
and he's not in the Tour de France plans for them, so.
Yeah. Well, he's more of like a classics guy anyways, but Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he's one of those
Um,
guys. When Visma announced their lineup for the Tour de France, he's one of the guys that I go, I don't know if you leave him off because he's one of those. He's a guy that can climb in the mountains. Like I said, I don't know, but he's
yeah.
oft injured, so this is kind of what you get when you have that situation.
Yep.
What did you think of Mauro Schmid?
First of all, I gotta say that the Swiss national champions jersey has got to be in the top three national champion jerseys. There's something that's just so sweet about the red with the white cross. It just like looks so clean.
It
That guy's
stands
bike,
out.
yeah, and that guy's bike was awesome too, man. The way that they had his bike painted up to go with that Swiss champions thing, it looked super cool. Um, yeah, that guy was great. I mean, uh, if we want to jump ahead to the Wollonga stage, I loved that tactic from Jayco. It's a real shame that it didn't come to fruition. I don't even think Jayco podiumed the race, but I think again, like sort of having an idea of what the stage was going to look like and coming up with a plan that certainly threw the peloton off. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody was just expecting that they would, keep their powder dry and then try to launch Luke Plapp on the final climb, and they zagged when everybody thought they were going to zig, and uh, I loved it. I mean, it made for a super exciting Wollonga stage. I mean, it's always a pretty exciting stage, anyways, watching that climb. But rather than it being 3Ks of excitement at the very very end of the race, that entire last lap of the circuit was so good because those two guys were out there in that move.
Yeah, no, it was. I just thought he looked so strong. I mean, I thought there was a lot of people that I was like, "Ooh, they look really good." Another one was Finn Fisher Black. I think that he is going to be a huge asset to Red Bull. I thought he looked strong. I think that as far as I'm concerned, he wasn't far off being in contention to win that race. So he is one to watch. The Finn Fisher Black.
Yep, he's one to watch. Also, I love seeing Pithy doing a lot of work in there. And he was. We'll get into him more a little in one of our later segments. But yeah, he's definitely on the come up. I mean, he made a big statement last season, and I think it's gonna be nothing but good things from him. It's funny how like some of these super teams are just like so stacked,
Oh,
so
and
stacked.
like we're on the deeper side of the rosters, and we're going like, oh yeah, these guys are good. Did you see Javier Ramos's interview after stage 5?
Yeah, I mean, he was just straight up like I thought. Yes, I want to hear what you have to say. I thought it was interesting. What I thought was interesting was the fact that the interviewer was like, "So, I mean, tomorrow, like, you any chance of?" And he was just like, "Nope, no way. I've lost it straight." Like he was just like, "It's not going to happen." And it
It was
seems so strange.
completely heartbreaking. Now it was like it was sweet in the sense that he you know kind of like gave you the, yeah, this is really great and I'm very happy that I had the chance to wear the jersey or whatever. But as soon as that question's asked, he's just like, yes, no, I am not going to have a chance. Like, this was my chance and it is gone now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he comes off as a pretty stoic guy, but
Very stoic.
both he and Movistar have to be completely over the moon with that result. I mean,
I
that's
mean, he
pretty
had the
great.
jersey for 2 days.
Yeah,
It
and I
was it
think
was an awesome win. The move where he was like pulled up his arm. Oh,
yeah, yeah.
and it's
Well, and
and it's his first win in at the pro level.
Yeah, no, I mean, a killer result. And I think honestly, that guy waits like another kilometer up Wollonga to make his move instead of starting with 3Ks to go. He goes with like 2Ks. I think we're
He
looking at
definitely went too early. I agree with you.
yeah, I think we're looking at a totally different result.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't beat Narvaez, but maybe he podiums that thing and the seconds are a lot closer. I don't know. Like um yeah, it's gonna be a
I don't
nice
think
watch.
you can discount that UAE. Like you didn't hear a lot from their other riders, but I mean, Mark Soler was riding in support of Navarez, and I mean that's like they had a very strong team. They didn't do a lot, to get on camera, but they were out there doing the work. There's no doubt, especially yesterday.
For sure, for sure. All right, unless you have anything else, I want to finish this up with two quick comments.
Sure, no, you're good.
Number one, Danny Van Poppel is a weapon, but please note he got the first yellow card of the season.
Yes, he
And
did.
what that if he would have gotten one more in this race, he would have been kicked out of the race. And I think like
It's 7 days.
yeah, and I think if he like it doesn't go away. It's still hanging around. If he gets another one this season, or if he gets two more this season,
It's like 30.
he gets into some suspension territory. But to finish up, I just have to say, like, Tour Down Under, fantastic season opening event. There's sprints, there's punchy stuff, there is an absolutely iconic climb. And as I just noted, this year was even better because that whole circuit was exciting because of the Jayco breakaway.
Yeah,
I love how they got just like legends in the commentary box with Liggett, Robbie McEwen, Anna
yeah,
Mears.
Mears. Yeah,
We got full coverage on Peacock from like the opening gun all the way through, and including a starter's gun with Mark Cavendish there on stage 6.
and it's
And
hey, listen, it is as good. I mean, outside of like some like little technical things with the broadcast, it is just as good as the tour. You were getting as much coverage as you got with the Tour de France. With
yeah,
Peacock.
yeah, it was beautiful. Well, great race, great organization by the Santos people running that race. So that is all for the Tour Down Under, but we are not leaving Australia. Stick around for segment 2. We'll be back in just a minute. Australian road cycling has been on the come up for a couple of decades now, with Grand Tour wins in the Tour de France in 2011 with Cadel Evans and the Giro d'Italia in 2022 with Jai Hindley. The nation has also had a road world champion with Evans in 2009 and just last year, Grace Brown in the TT in her final season as a pro. Australians have also won the green sprinter's jersey at the Tour de France with Robbie McEwen, Grand Tour stage wins with multiple different riders on the men's and women's sides, one-day monuments, and Olympic gold medals, including last year when Grace Brown snatched the first part of her TT double for 2024. Justin, give me a nugget you unearthed in research on the history of pro cycling down under.
So probably my favorite thing that I discovered was Sir Hubert Opperman, or Oppie.
Yes, Oppie.
This was maybe my favorite thing of all of last week. So he is considered to be maybe the greatest endurance rider ever. Obviously, he rode in like the 20s and 30s and 40s, and so I made a couple of notes throughout. So he rode in the 1928 and the 1931 Tour de France. Dude, this one is crazy. He won the Paris. All right, this is 726 miles. All right, it took him 49 hours and 23 minutes, despite rain and wind. All right. He rode a Malvern Star, all right, pretty much his whole career, which he like he won one in a race early on and like developed a relationship with the owner of the company and
Is
ended
this
up
a bike? Malvern Star?
Malvern Star is a bike that was an Australian bike. It was like an Australian make, and he rode those, his whole career. So let's see. Hold on. 1940, Opperman set 100 distance records in a 24-hour race in Sydney that many were not broken until decades later. 37, he set a record for the fastest time of 13 days, 10 hours, and 11 minutes for the 2,875-mile transcontinental crossing from Fremantle to Sydney. Over long stretches of rutted track and through soft sand where he had to carry his bicycle in searing heat. Sometimes he fell asleep while riding and crashed. His time of just over 13 days cut 5 days off the record, and other records fell by the score. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
That is just nuts. All right. So, and eventually he ended up becoming a politician and was knighted. I mean, it's crazy. The guy is just an absolute legend.
I love it. Somebody make the biopic. I'm ready to watch that movie.
Yeah, totally. Let's go.
That would be amazing with the beautiful Australian desert backdrops as he's like riding his 2,000 miles across the continent. Like
3,000 miles, dude.
3,000 miles. It's amazing. Cool.
Right,
I love it.
So what did you find?
Well, for me with Australia, I mean, my sort of love of Australians in pro cycling kind of goes back to my initial love of the sport, because I got into it at first in the early 2000s, and when I got into it, Robbie McEwen was the guy. Like I'm not exactly sure which editions of the Tour de France he took the green jersey, and he won 3 total, but I'm almost 100% positive I was locked in for at least 2 of those. And for years, I've talked about how I always loved his interviews, because he gives really good interviews. Clearly, we all know why. I mean, he's a great analytical mind. That's why he's in the commentary box on a in a big way. Not just in.
And he's very good on
the Tour Down Under.
Box.
Yeah. Oh, he's so good. He's so good. I mean, he's funny. He's cheeky, but he's also got a ton of knowledge. When he was riding, his nickname was the Pimpernel, which I always thought was funny. I mean, no American would have any idea what that is unless you're a botanist, but it basically means someone who's like cunning or mysterious or tactical or whatever. And his thing was like he was on these teams that very often did not have strong lead outs, and this is in an era of like big time lead out trains for sprinters, and he would freelance his wins, and so like a lot of times it just seemed like you would not be seeing him at all on the coverage, like right there at the end of the race, and then suddenly with like 50 meters to go, boom, he would just like appear out from behind somebody and take the win. So I've always been ride or die for Robbie McEwen.
I also throughout my research, Richie Porte, legend. God.
Yeah, I mean, the King of Wollonga Hill, I think he won it 5 times in a row.
I mean, he also, Paris Nice, Catalonia, Romandy. I mean, Dauphiné. I mean, he's got wins all over the place. Young rider classification in the Giro.
Honestly, I have to say 2 things on Richie Porte. Number one, his podium in the Tour de France, like in 2020, was so sweet. It was just like so nice to see him get that. He just hung in, and it was like his swan song. It was so beautiful. And then another thing that I love is he will always be enshrined in one of the single most iconic Tour de France moments of all time, which is his face slamming into the camera on that climb where Chris Froome got off his bike and was like running up the mountain. It was in like 2017 or 2018. It's like one of the most iconic shots ever, is like the yellow jersey off the bike and running up the mountain. Well, Richie Porte was his domestique then, and he was right in front of him when that motorcycle stops. And you can totally see like Richie like coming at the camera and like thunk. So I mean, a little bit infamous, but he was there. And I tell you, he had when he left Team Sky at the time. I think he went to BMC, and he was the leader, and he was basically in the peak of his form at that time. They put him in the leadership role, and he had 2 crashes right in a row, like 2 seasons in a row that took him out of the Tour de France. It was so sad. I mean, I think in both instances, he was like, you saw him on the side of the road crying because like his dreams were dashed. The first one was a nasty crash too. There's really good footage of it where like they're on a high speed descent, and he like goes all the way from like literally slides from one side of the road to the other. Nasty. So, but I love me some Richie Port.
How about so on the women's side of Australian cycling, Chloe Hosking.
Yeah, get into her. I didn't cover
She holds the record for the most professional wins for an Australian woman at 39. All right. She competed in the 2012 Summer Olympics and won the 2018 Commonwealth Games for the women in the road race. Just, an absolute legend. Anna Mears, you mentioned her from the broadcast on the Tour Down Under. She won 4 500-meter track time world championships, as well as a bronze medal in Kieran at the 2016 Summer Olympics.
Kieran racing is so cool. We'll have to put that on as a subject one of these times. Yes, fantastic. And then, I mean, the Grace Brown, the Grace Brown Swan Song last year was just so freaking cool. Seeing her take the Olympic gold and the World Championship same year, final year. Just what a boss, going out on top, going out with a gold medal, going out with the World Championship stripes on your back. So cool. Yeah, she's phenomenal. It's interesting, like what I feel like Australia has managed to do what the United States just can't pull off, which is, not only contribute a lot of great riders to the pro peloton, but to secure a place on the calendar with a great race. It's now got 25 years of history, the Tour Down Under. They've also got the Cadel Evans race the next week, which is cool that teams can have a couple of different prizes to go for when they make the trip to Australia. And
they stack January, February with what's going on. And look, it's a community thing. All right. It's an Australian thing because they make an effort. The Australian Open, finished last night. So there's another giant sporting event going on in Australia, and they're still getting good turnouts in the South for this. So, it's a testament to the people that put on the race, that do the race, that volunteer. They get the fans involved. It's a good experience, and it's growing. You know what I mean? And it could be like that in the U.S. I mean, we experienced, the one single road race in 2024, 2023, in the U.S., and it was a great time. It's just a matter of somebody making the commitment to continue to do it and to grow it and to promote it correctly. So I don't know. It's a testament to what they're doing down there for sure.
Yeah. It's a real shame that the states can't get their act together. I would love to see Jai Hindley find some form and catch another Grand Tour win. I love that guy. He is so sweet. Like he's just such a nice guy, and he's got a ton of talent. He won the pink jersey for I think didn't he win the pink jersey on the last day? Like, wasn't he one of those ones where he never actually?
It was the finish. It was the finish, like in so like they went into like a building, like into the Coliseum, but I don't think it was the Coliseum.
Yeah, I remember that.
There was there was definitely like some different way that they won that year.
Speaking of Coliseums, I was watching in my research on Cadel Evans. It was one of the Tours de France back in like 2011, 2012 or something, where the whole opening was held inside of a Coliseum like building, and they had like the riders coming out with gladiators like on horse drawn chariots and stuff like that. It was crazy. Like the pageantry that was happening at the beginning of this race was totally insane. It was for the, I think it was for the team presentations or whatever, and they had this stage like it was like watching Gladiator. I mean, there's like they're down on the thing, and there's a stage in the middle, and the gladiators. It was
It's
wild.
crazy.
So yeah, I'd love to see Jai get back in the mix because I really like him. Um, what else? You got anything else on Australia?
Um, yeah, there was another woman, just because in our next segment we're going to be talking about Cadel Evans' Great Ocean Road Race. Rachel Nyland, who was a former pro, she silver medaled at the 2012 World Championships, and she won the inaugural women's Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race in 2015. So, I mean, Australia's got some great riders. I mean, right now, Ruby Roseman Gannon is awesome. She just won the Aussie National Championship. So,
Yeah,
I don't know, man. There's just a lot of
she's
good
great.
riders from Australia, and they all seem to be so damn nice, too.
Yeah, yeah. Amanda Spratt also great on the female side, although she's kind of coming into the second, the tail end of her career.
Yeah, she won
Um,
3 TDUs.
yeah, for sure. Well, we are not leaving Australia just yet because in our third segment we're going to be talking all things Cadel Evans. So stay tuned. In 2011, Cadel Evans became the first Australian to win the Tour de France. 2 years before, he'd become the first Aussie to pull on the rainbow jersey at the World Championships in Mendrisio, Switzerland, with a cheeky move in the final couple of kilometers to set up a solo victory. Evans is a beloved figure in Australia, a philanthropist and all-around good guy, and the namesake of the other big Australian annual road cycling event, the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race. Justin, what would you like to get into first, the man or the race?
Uh, Probably the man. So I didn't know a lot about Cadel Evans prior to this week. I mean, I knew the name, and obviously I knew that he had won the Tour de France, and he had the road race named after him. But I didn't kind of realize what his impact in Australia was and what his impact on racing was. So he's the only Tour de France winner from Australia. Not only was he the first, but he's the only one. The Cadel effect, I thought that was a neat thing that, you know, he has been one of these racers that's brought a lot of people to the sport. And, I'm sure that most of the crop of young cyclists in Australia right now, that are coming up through the World Tour ranks, looked to Cadel Evans as, a hero because, he was a tremendous rider during his career. A 4-time Olympian, one of 3 non-Europeans to have won the Tour de France. He was a cyclocross winner in 98 and 99 for the World Cup, points jersey in the Giro, world champion in 09. He won La Flèche Wallonne, and we know how much we love that race in 2010. And besides that, bunch of other stage race wins throughout his career. Guy's a stud.
Total stud. He was when I was watching in my initial stint as a cycling fan, he was sort of just getting started. I can remember watching him a little bit during the Armstrong era, but when he came into his own, like in 09, 2010, that's when I was totally out of the loop. So I completely missed that little window of time in pro cycling and Tour de France history. So it was fun kind of going back and taking a look at some of his wins. I mean, his Tour de France win in 2011 was really a great win in that he just like persevered, just hung in, just let his form build, played it super cool.
And
Knew that
did he take it on like a time trial or something at the
yeah,
end?
he knew that he had the time trial in his back pocket, and the big stage was 18. So back then, two of the big hitters, there was the Schleck brothers, Frank and Andy Schleck, and I think one of them won the tour somewhere in there. But Andy Schleck had taken off on the Col de Izoard on stage 18 of the race that year, and was making the move to win the race. I mean, that was Schleck's only chance to win, and Cadel had to really reach deep into his suitcase of determination to minimize the damage on that day, knowing that he had the TT in the bag. And God, I think he beat Schleck by like almost 2 minutes in the TT.
Yeah, I mean,
so
he just smashed on the time trial.
Yeah, pretty convincing win. I thought it was cool seeing these two brothers on the podium. There was a nice symmetry. There was a nice balance to looking at the podium with Cadel there and the two Schleck brothers on either side. They look exactly the same. But yeah, an interesting guy. I like the way he was unafraid to kind of show his emotions. I mean, all the Tour de France stuff, you just saw like tears running down his face, and he's an interesting looking cat. He's got a very very distinct face. Like he's
very
got like
squared off.
Yeah.
One of the things that I found that I thought was so neat is just a little nugget. He had a breakthrough performance at the Tour of Tasmania in 1999, where famous commentator Phil Liggett famously proclaimed that Evans would win the Tour de France one day. So back in 12 years prior, he's putting on a performance in the Tour of Tasmania, and Phil Liggett's on the commentary and is like, "This kid's great. He's gonna win the Tour de France one day."
Liggett with the 12-year hot take. No,
Look at that. Isn't that crazy? If that doesn't tell you Phil Liggett's acumen, like in the sport, oh God, what a legend.
Yeah. Did you watch Cadel's World Championship win?
Yeah, and like hit the podium where he's just like, I mean, you were talking about the emotion. Like that's the part that I remember more than anything was him kissing the medal on the podium. Oh man.
Yeah, and that was a great win there as well. Once again, like great like strategy acumen on behalf of that guy. He once again just hung in, only made his move with like 2Ks to go, knowing that he was not going to win that thing if it came down to a sprint. And that's often the case, and it's very rare that a guy in those final kilometers of a race can pop off the front and manage to keep a sprint at bay. But he did it, and he, the Paul Mars. I mean, the World Championship and the Tour de France win alone are next level, and then you put everything else together with it, and there's no doubt that he is the guy. He is the single icon, if you had to pick one for Australian cycling, and very fitting, I think, that he now has a race that bears his name down there, and it was kind of cool. His last season was the inaugural running of that race, and I think pretty sure he participated in the race in his final season. So super cool that has come as a result. And as I said earlier, I love the fact that teams can go to Australia for the Tour Down Under, and then they've already paid all the money and made the effort to bring the entire team and organization and infrastructure to Australia. Hey, you know what? Hang around for another week, and we'll give you a great one-day race as well, which is a really cool race. I mean, that climb in that race is fantastic. It is steep, and it doesn't come right at the end, but it is enough to break the peloton up enough that the final run into the finish is awesome. I mean, sometimes a group will come back together for a sprint finish like they did last year with the Lawrence Pithy win, but it sets it up, like the climb sets
And
up
once
the
you come out of the hills, they like do that turn onto the ocean road, and it's just beautiful beachfront.
yeah.
Uh, you started to mention earlier in the podcast, Lawrence Pithy, current champion of this race. I think it'll be interesting. I haven't seen any start lists for this yet. I'll be interested to see who's in the start list, because this will be a great test of that 1 day race for a lot of these guys, and see who's really on form.
Well, it'd be a good opportunity for Welsford to give a little payback to the guy, to one of the guys that really helped him out.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's no doubt.
yeah. What's cool too is with this race, this will be the first year that I watched this race. I'll be perfectly honest. Like, I've been totally checked out on this race thus far. And having followed the TDU so closely this year, since we're doing the podcast, et cetera, and we're really dialed in. I feel like going into the Cadel race next weekend, I'm like ready. I know who all the players are. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm already. So it's gonna be a really fun watch, just because of all the prep that we've done. So I'm greatly looking forward to catching both of those races. And I love that we got a Saturday race for the women, a Sunday race for the men. It's just going to be another nice weekend of cycling before we got to kind of settle in and wait for the good stuff for another month or two.
Yeah.
Although
We won't be waiting. We won't be waiting that long. It's
hey, we'll have the challenge Mallorca to talk about. So
so who do you have any? Like I said, I haven't got a chance to look at it, but would you say that Pithy is your top pick for a win?
No, I'm going to do a hot take, and I'm going to say Finn Fisher Black.
I love that pick. I really like that. Yeah, okay. I'm in.
Although
If
if Narvaez sticks around, which one would assume he will stick around. He was in the mix in the sprint last year. I don't think he podiumed. I think he ended up in like fourth. But if he's on the kind of form that he has, watch out for him. But I'm hot take Finn Fisher Black to win the Cadel Evans road race.
if Ineos is involved and Sheffield is involved, I could see him being a contender in that race as well. I think it would suit him.
I don't know. Not with that climb at the end. I don't know. On the women's side, Chloe, can Chloe do it?
I mean, Chloe could do it.
Chloe can sprint, but can she get up that climb with say the first 10? I think if she's in the top 10 at the end of that climb, I think there's a chance that she does it. I'm so excited to watch her 2025.
Yeah, she is just electric.
Yeah. All right. Well, unless you have any.
No, that's it, man. That's it.
All right. Well, we will leave it there. Eagerly anticipating some great racing next weekend. In the meantime, stay with us. We are taking a ride in the Broom Wagon. That's next. We are back and ready for a ride in the wagon. What do you got for us this week, Justin?
So I was going to go one way, and then I ended up watching something last night that I was like, oh, this is now my Broom Wagon topic. So many years ago, back in probably 2001 or 2002, you gave me a DVD of The Fellowship of the Ring, and that sparked off a now 20 plus year absolute love of all things J.R.R. Tolkien. Last night my wife and I watched Lord of the Rings: The War of the Rohirrim. It's like a anime like movie that tells us a story that happens like 200 years before the events of the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. It was so good. Like my wife and I both agreed. Really well done. Brian Cox is the like the lead, like the main, king, helm, hammerhand, and it was just super well done. They pay like this great audio homage to the Lord of the Rings in the music. There's like a lot of music cues that are exactly the same, and then use bits from those movies.
Well, that's wait. That's one thing. Clarify this for me, but I'm pretty
Sure.
sure it's sort of in the same cinematic universe as the
100%, because it's done by all the
recent.
same people. It's Jackson and Boyens and
Right, right,
and
right.
I can't think I heard the other one's name.
Fran.
Fran Walsh.
Yeah.
They it's very well done. They had a Miranda Otto as the narrator as Eowyn, and it was just like I said to my wife, I was like, I enjoyed that more than I thought I would, and I don't. I'm not like a big anime guy, and I don't, it's not. I mean, like I've watched a bunch of stuff, but like it's not really my thing per se. But I was so thoroughly entertained by this. Like the pacing was good. It's like a full 2 hours, and it's just it does feel like it is part of that world. Things are so recognizable because they were smart, and a lot of the scenery they made it look the same way that it did in the movies. So when you see Edoras, it looks like Edoras from the movie. When you see Helm's Deep, it looks like Helm's Deep. When you see Orthanc, it really keeps that the inspiration visually that those movies had in this. And it was just, like I said, it was just very well done. The score is amazing, and the voice actors were amazing. Outside of Brian Cox, there wasn't anybody like really, really big. They do bring Dominic Monaghan and Billy Boyd back for a brief, bit
Interesting.
as completely separate characters. But oh man, really good. Can't recommend it enough. Lord of the Rings: The War of the Rohirrim. It's out now on digital. But
What
it
did
was
you what
really,
did
really
you
good.
watch it on?
I bought it. I actually bought it on Prime. I figured that it's a Lord of the Rings thing, and I'll probably want to watch it more than once. So I went ahead and bought it. It was on sale. I think
That's cool. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to watching that. I just need to catch Mandy. I'm gonna watch it with Mandy. She's a Lord of the Rings head, and we need to watch it together. So
well, it
sometimes
is. When you tell her, it's very good, and the whole it will not take you out of it being animated. It really
Mhm.
won't. If she doesn't enjoy it, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, and especially considering the continuity, that you mentioned with the live action movies, I think that'll be a big selling point. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that. All right, for my Broom Wagon. Speaking of stuff we watched last night, I started the night watching The Wild Robot. Big shout out for that movie. It's now on Peacock, and it is so good. That's not my Broom Wagon topic, but watch The Wild Robot. I want to just get into a little bit more SNL talk. I've been a little obsessed with SNL lately, and of course, we did a show segment on it a few weeks back. But there's some notable things happening in SNL world right now. First of all, last weekend, it was the Chappelle episode, and I thought it was a very meh kind of an episode. And I don't know what it is. Maybe I missed the boat on Dave Chappelle. I mean, I didn't watch much of the Chappelle show back in the day. That was during a time in my life when I was just not watching any TV back then. So there's all these people that I know. I mean, I've constantly, he's kind of ubiquitous in the comedy conversation amongst people that I, talk about those things with. But I remember seeing that movie. What was it? What was that movie? Half Baked? Is that the one where he,
Classic.
I mean, I have to say, I mean, that to me, that was one of the funniest lines of all time. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. Fuck you. I'm out. Like that's like God tier funny. But like, I don't give a fuck about Dave Chappelle, and I can
Oh,
I
I
cannot
disagree.
believe I cannot believe that I'm happy to be that guy. I can't believe they gave him he did a 20-minute monologue on SNL. 20 minutes. Like, that's insane that they give anybody that kind of time up front to just, like, I mean, he pulled up a stool and he was smoking a cigarette the whole time. He was smoking cigarettes throughout the entire show. It was another thing. It was like, it's a total turn off. Like, I don't know. I could care less about that guy. However, last night, had the Timothy Chalamet episode where he was doing both host and musical guest, and I thought it was awesome. It was like everything that the Chappelle episode wasn't. I was screaming with laughter throughout the whole episode, and he did two music performances. The first one were two almost unknown Bob Dylan songs. He like 2 in 1, and the second one was bizarre. Just bizarre. Like it was a weird kind of song that was like telling a story, and he was sitting on the side of the stage next to the piano player. The first part of the first song was like a total rock and roll song. He had the electric guitar and the whole band, and it was like rock and blues. And then he does this bizarro like story song, and then for the second performance, he gave us exactly what we wanted. It was like him, acoustic guitar, doing a Dylan classic, but a lesser known classic, not one of the big ones from the movie. So it wasn't a retread of anything from the movie. It's just so good. I talked about the movie last week, and I'm all in. Like, I loved it. So big shout out. And just to finish it out, the 50th anniversary show for SNL. It's 3 weeks from today. It's going to be on a Sunday, which kind of seems weird to me that the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live is going to be on a Sunday, but whatever. It's going to be great. I think they're doing a 3-hour show from like 8 to 11 or 8:30 to 11:30 or something. So 3 weeks from today, catch the 50th anniversary show for Saturday Night Live. Cannot imagine what they will have in store for that, but I'm sure there's going to be some big names coming out.
I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I almost wonder if they'll even do like new sketches, or will they just like bring out all the old timers to like, redo.
They better have John Dan Goodman on it. I can tell you that.
John Goodman. Why?
I know he's like one of the most prolific hosts.
Yeah,
he's hosted it like he's one of the like probably top 3 like people that have hosted it the most.
Yeah. A couple weekends ago, they did I think the Martin Short one. They did like a sketch. Maybe it was even the cold open where it was like the 5-timers club, because Martin Short was becoming like a 5-time host or whatever. But yeah, great show. We'll talk about it more, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
So, and that is all for this week. Join us next week as we do a full recap of both the women's and men's versions of Cadel Evans' Great Ocean Road Race. We'll also be taking a look at a few upcoming pro races, the Challenge Mallorca and the Tour of Valenciana and the Women's UAE Tour. And we'll dive into some American football talk with a conversation about the newly rejuvenated Washington Commanders, who will either be eagerly anticipating a return to the Super Bowl for the first time since 1991, or they'll be licking their wounds after a championship loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, who they're playing later today, and looking back on the best season the team has had in decades. Until then, for my brother Justin, I'm Matt Harper. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us next week for another ride beyond the slipstream. Ale! Beyond the Slipstream is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Ale!